Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll be narrating The Life of a Teenage Hellworlder, Chapter 4, Remastered, written by none other than myself and u/zombie redditor 9188. Let us begin. While Thomas was waiting for shavkoi to awake, he received a notification from his HUD, seemingly sent to all human citizens. The other human governments probably gave their citizens something similar, he thought. Tom felt a sense of dread, wondering what had happened. Since it was most likely important, he opened it, read it, and nearly fell over in surprise. To loyal citizens of the Empire, as of 6:12 p.m. New Britannia time, a new law was passed, after a reoccurring incident that has happened one too many times for the Galactic Federation government to tolerate. We thank you in advance for understanding, and would like to clarify that while we do not approve of the GF censorship, we are obligated to obey it. The new law states that any information pertaining to human history that could be perceived as being mature must come with an accurate disclaimer for said information. The Galactic Empire of New Britannia. Thomas was shocked. There was no doubt that this was most likely his fault. Whether it was really him who had finally pushed the Galactic Federation government to its limit or not, he still felt responsible and guilty. His thoughts, however, were cut short when he heard a loud clattering from behind the corner he had just passed. Tom backpedaled. Looking down the hallway, he spotted the same insectoid Xeno from the morning running away. He was about to give chase when his HUD got a notification for the second time that day. It was one of the school's nurses. shavkoi was awake and had asked for his presence. Taking one last look at the insectoid Xeno, he ran in the opposite direction towards the infirmary. He heard the bell ring. The morning class had ended, and students were beginning to pour out into the halls. He hadn't been noticed yet, his small size making most students look right over him, as they began to talk excitedly. "I heard the human beat his entire class unconscious!" Thomas heard one Xeno exclaim, others chiming in with their own view or theories on what he had done. "I heard it was because his teacher insulted Earth's history." The voices stopped as everyone noticed him, the entire hallway slowly quieting. Thomas was a little upset that the story had gotten twisted to such an extent, but that wasn't the most important thing to him right now. He resumed sprinting to the infirmary, the students letting out small shrieks or gasps as they quickly moved out of his way. It was a little cool, a crowd instantly parting to let him through, but also a bit sad. Was this going to be his new life? Permanent isolation? It's not isolation. You have shavkoi, he thought, and began running even faster. Thomas almost ran past the infirmary, stopping with a jolt. He nearly fell flat on his face, but he quickly backtracked and entered the room. shavkoi was sitting in one of the many infirmary beds, one of the first from his class to awake. She noticed him, waving him over with a small smile. Thomas smiled back and walked over to her, fidgeting nervously. "Glad to see you're awake. Sorry about, shavkoi chuckled quietly, shaking her head. "I'm okay, thanks. Thanks for asking. I was just really surprised to hear all that destruction caused by 2 wars. It's as if you humans are warring with yourselves on extreme levels near constantly." She sighed, and Thomas tensed. He trailed off as shavkoi looked directly into his eyes. "You're joking, right?" Thomas shook his head, showing that he was serious. You mind explaining? Maybe with less details," shavkoi said. Thomas was about to speak when he remembered the new law that had been passed. "Before I speak, I must give a proper disclaimer. The Galactic Federation government made it after what happened in our history class, actually." shavkoi nodded slowly. "Okay, that makes sense, I think. Some of the things I'm about to tell you are rated 90 to 100 out of 100 on the Galactic Horror Scale. So, still want me to continue?" Thomas asked, and was surprised to see shavkoi nod. He lowered his voice, making sure some of the nearby nurses or students didn't hear. "So, we humans have been fighting each other since our earliest recorded and known history." Thomas watched as shavkoi's face went from cautious interest to just blank, as she struggled to take in all the information that he was telling her, nodding every once in a while. Full-scale wars, military skirmishes, information wars, cold wars, wars between kingdoms and empires, tribes, cavemen, yeah, the list goes on and on. Also, at the end of World War II, we actually used to... Thomas decided to stop there, smiling at shavkoi's surprised expression. It was a little cute, to be honest. He was about to ask if she was alright when he felt someone staring at him, not a nurse or an awakened classmate, but... Tom turned his head to look out the windows as fast as he could. He spotted the insectoid from earlier sitting in a tree, aiming a camera at him, and was clearly surprised by his sudden reaction. Losing its grip, it began to fall, and Thomas heard a nasty-sounding crunch, looking out the window just in time to see the small figure attempting to limp away. Shavkoi, noticing the disturbance, looked out the window, eyes widened at the sight of the Xeno's fallen form laying beside the tree. Was that a Vinsal? Shavkoi said to nobody in particular, as Thomas shrugged. I'm guessing it was, he said. How did you see it? Shavkoi asked. They're known for their incredible camouflage, she said. I didn't. I just felt like I was being watched. Its incredible camouflage was pretty bad, too. It was much darker than the tree's leaves, Thomas explained. Your color vision is that good? Shavkoi exclaimed, shocked. I guess, Thomas said. He had assumed that all Xenos had the same color vision as humans. Look, Shavkoi. Thomas lowered his voice even more as Shavkoi leaned forward. Listen, I think that Vinsal has been following us since this morning. I don't know what... He stopped speaking as Shavkoi sprang up, stretching. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go find them, she boomed, and Thomas saw a predatory look in her eyes. Shavkoi dashed out of the infirmary, and Thomas flinched as her tail narrowly skimmed his chest before following her. The two ran down the hall as they made their way outside. She seems energetic, Thomas mused as he struggled to keep up with Shavkoi. Thomas noticed Shavkoi starting to slow down after a while, her digitigrade claws screeching across the metallic floor. She seemed to try and regain her strength from the sprint, as Thomas began catching up. Thomas finally reached her, casually jogging up to her. Lost you for a bit there. I had trouble keeping up. Thomas noticed her state and realized what it meant. Oh, I see, he mumbled. You evolved to run in quick sprints, to run through forests. Raising his voice, Thomas said to Shavkoi, We should get moving, and maybe not as fast this time. The two continued at a slower pace, till they reached the school doors. Thomas reached for the door handle and pulled it, revealing the Vinsal. The insectoid staggered back as they approached, falling onto its rear. Thomas and Shavkoi approached the trembling sentient when Thomas heard seemingly familiar footsteps behind him. What's going on here? A familiar voice said, and Thomas turned to see the headmaster. This Vinsal was watching me and Shavkoi in the infirmary, with a camera, Thomas blurted as Shavkoi made confirming gestures. The headmaster shook his head. That's because the Vinsal here is part of the school's photography team. Now step aside. He has work to do. Thomas looked at the headmaster. His face looked professional, calm, but underneath that, Thomas could swear the magister looked a bit smug. Well, he could have at least told us. It's an invasion of privacy, Thomas protested, and the headmaster begrudgingly nodded. I suppose so, but I myself have to say, I guess he wasn't expecting two hellworlders to be afraid of one Vinsal with a camera, the headmaster said rather pointedly, the smug look seeming to grow ever bigger. Thomas stared at the headmaster, who stared back, their eyes locked in a stalemate. Thomas noticed the posh shite-hawk to look a bit worried. Suddenly, Shavkoi stepped in between them. Let's go to our dorm, Tom. We can receive our work online, she said quietly, and Thomas looked away. Yeah, you're right. Let's go. Muttering to himself, he walked through the school doors past Valis, who backed away as he and Shavkoi walked past him. Thomas could still feel the headmaster's gaze burning into the back of his head until the door in between them finally closed. Once they were safely out of earshot, Thomas began to speak again. What was that about? He demanded angrily. What kind of fucking headmaster? Thomas stopped, taking a deep breath, holding it in, before letting it out slowly. He turned to Shavkoi, who was looking at him sympathetically. Let's just do our homework, Thomas muttered, feeling himself calm down. Are you alright, Tom? Shavkoi asked a moment later, and Thomas shook his head. I guess. The Vinsal. Valis. Valis could have been a stalker or a kidnapper, and... Thomas sighed. At least we're fine, right? He said, smiling slightly. And Shavkoi beamed. That's right. I was hoping we could crack some bones, but knowing that me and my best friend are safe will have to do. Thomas's smile grew even bigger as the two reached their dormitory building, making their way over to the elevator. Shavkoi collapsed on the nearest piece of furniture, mentally and physically exhausted from all the homework that she and Thomas had finished. She'd already been tired from yesterday's movies, and now, later in the day, the effects of sleep deprivation were hitting her hard. Shavkoi? She turned to look at Thomas, who looked slightly concerned. Are you tired? Well, it has been a long day, innit? He said, and Shavkoi let out a confirming grunt. Here, come on. Thomas extended a hand, and Shavkoi took it. Moments later, her jaw dropped as he actually managed to pull her up. You good? Thomas's voice pulled her out of her stupor, and she blinked. Thanks, she stammered, still shocked. Thomas's muscles weren't just very visible. He really had the strength of a hellworlder. At the moment, Shavkoi wished she could have seen herself. her 7-foot tall body essentially being carried by someone a foot shorter than her. Thomas escorted her to her room as she gently leaned on him. Shavkoi flopped onto her bed as Thomas left. "I'll keep the volume down," Thomas called out, and Shavkoi couldn't even respond. She was too tired. So tired, in fact, that she forgot about her room heater. Well, it seems that's the end of the narration. I hope you'll enjoy it and have a lovely day.